Excellent. Well, this is a special edition of the podcast, Rubrics, and I've invited Joyner Horn to spend some time with us. And I was the inspiration for this. And Joyner is certainly wondering what we're going to talk about because she's received zero prep whatsoever. But I do the bulletins and notices, and I was writing your name for the anthem, and you sang this past Sunday at Evensong, a beautiful, beautiful piece from Aaron Copland, and that he composed. He composed the music, not the words, correct?
I think he
Yeah,
arranged it.
yeah. He
Here's the
okay,
thing. I'm not sure.
okay. It was beautiful by Aaron Copland. Are you doing the
Mhm.
same thing this Sunday, or is it another Aaron Copland? The same piece. So the
Same
same
thing.
piece. So I thought, gosh, and we get to have these amazing conversations in the office. Robert Matthews is always teaching, and Father Luke and I and everyone else learn an awful lot. When we used to have a regular staff meeting. Staff's changed a bit now, so staff meeting is more organic. But we would actually sing every week as a staff, and we had more singers on staff, so that made it easier to do. And we would learn, he would teach us something about the text or the history or the music. And I was always sad that we had this experience to learn and everyone else did not. So anyway, I was
Mhm.
typing your name and thought, gosh, you and I have lots of fun conversations during the week on Sundays, and your witness, your education, your career is unique for people like me, not for you, because this is your world. And I thought how interesting it might be for the congregation and the wider church to hear something about your life. And so
Mhm.
let me just start by saying you are one of two people in my career of whom I've signed checks of employment, and someone still had to drive you to high school. A long time ago. The first was Raymond Hawkins. He may not have been the first, but Raymond Hawkins was our organist years ago. And when we had a search for the organist, Raymond came, and Raymond was in high school. I think he was a junior in high
Yeah.
school. And
Hmm.
Raymond is a prodigy. He's married now. I'm not sure if you're still a prodigy if you're older and married, but he was amazing. And so he got the job because he was the best. And so we paid
Hmm.
him the posted salary because he was the best. And so one of the most interesting experiences for me is to go as an employer to one of my employees' high school graduations. And that was pretty cool. And I did. So you started singing at St. Timothy's also when you were in high school.
Hmm.
And I forget how old you were. You may have been younger than Ray. Were you 15?
I think I was 16,
Okay. But your
16 or
mom drove
17.
your mom drove you to work, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
she did. She drove me because I didn't have my license until I was like 17 or 18. So she would drive me to school. She would drive me to St. Tim's. Um,
Was that
and
your
it
first
was
was that your first church job or your first job ever?
it was both.
Okay.
I think it was both. There was a little phase where I was working as a hostess at Nobles, um, and they might have coincided a little bit. But it was so funny because Kristen Barnhart, she was my first choir director when I was 4 years old.
I did not know that.
Um,
Or I
yeah, in the
forgot that.
best Christmas pageant ever
Huh.
at the Little Theater. And then she was my first official paid choir director as an adult, which I wasn't even an adult at the time.
No.
But it was a very like interesting sort of like full circle cyclical experience to come back and to get acquainted with St. Timothy's so young because I grew up in the Methodist church, very country little community church where we didn't have any of the
It's
high
still
church
simple.
stuff.
It's still simple Bible
Yeah.
religion.
No, it
Yeah.
is. But so it was quite the experience to have um that like I would try and go to my church before St. Tim's on Sunday mornings and then switch to St. Tim's and it was a lot of driving for my dear sweet mother. But yeah. Yeah,
So were you in the UNCS School of the Arts in high school? Is that
hmm.
okay? And give
I
us the
was.
brief bio. I mean, you've been a professional singer since a teenager.
Yeah.
How does give us the backstory here?
So when I was a little girl, very little, my mom would play like the Beethoven Lives Upstairs CDs. And I got interested in music because of that, really. So I started piano. Then there was a Vivaldi CD, so I wanted to play the violin and be just like the little girl on that. And then the fateful moment was the summer before sixth grade when I watched The Phantom of the Opera
Oh,
for the first time.
you wanted to
And
be
I said,
Christine.
I wanted to be Christine. I loved it. And
Was
so I
this
started
The
taking,
Emma Rossum version of it? Is that the one?
yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes, it was. So I was so just drawn to that. I was like, wow, like I didn't realize what the human voice was capable of. So I started taking voice lessons. And then at that point, I was also doing a little bit of organ. There was just too much music going on. So I had to drop one thing, and that was violin. Then I went to School of the Arts for high school with an intent of being Christine Daae in The Phantom of the Opera. And they were like, that's cute, why don't you think about opera as an actual art form? So
Hmm.
I was in my first opera when I was 16. It was a Puccini one. And I was like, this is amazing. I didn't know a human body was capable of creating so much sound and being heard without amplification over an orchestra. So then I went to Boston University for my undergrad and Cincinnati Conservatory for my first master's degree. And while there, I was really going through, it wasn't like a crisis of faith, but it was more a matter of, Lord, where are you calling me? I don't know if opera's it. So I ended up leaving, um, and took some time off to sort of think and pray. And then I realized performance is still where he wants me to be, but maybe it's not opera, maybe it's also acting. So then I went and got a master's of arts in, oh gosh, what's it called? Classical acting for the professional theater, at a school in London. And then after that, had some like vocal health issues this past Christmas. Had some time off to just like I couldn't even speak. I was on vocal rest for 10 days. And during that time, it just really became clear to me that the Lord has given me this gift and that I need to use it however He calls me to. So here I am singing again and acting and just sort of trying to see how and in what ways and avenues I can use what He's given me.
For the musicians who may be, or
Mhm.
vocalists who may be listening or watching, what is your designation as a singer? Soprano, mezzo soprano? I don't know how that works. Where are you on what's your level?
I'm a dramatic soprano, but I
Yes,
used
you
to be
are.
a mezzo.
I'm sorry. Oh, I
In
thought you were
more
being
ways than
funny.
one.
Oh, okay.
No, no, no. That is a real thing.
Okay.
I think it's very fitting that I am. But I used to be a mezzo soprano and I transitioned to the dramatic
What's the difference?
soprano.
What's a mezzo? What's a dramatic? Is there a non-dramatic? Is there a chill soprano? What's the difference?
I don't think there are any chill
No,
sopranos.
I agree.
Hopefully, I don't get in trouble for saying that, but it's true. Mezzo soprano and soprano, all voice types have to do with like the tessitura and the type of fa, which is really tessitura, and that means like
Thank
where
you.
your voice likes to sit.
Okay.
Um, does it like to sit lower? Does it like to sit higher? It doesn't mean that you don't necessarily have the same note range, but it's like what's more comfortable. And then also you can have like a lighter soprano, and that has to do with like color and tone and that sort of stuff. Um, but I have more of a darker shade to my voice, and coloring of it. So that makes me, and just like I don't know all the technical stuff. I should. I've forgotten it. But whatever is going on in my head makes me more of a dramatic voice.
Okay. Um, Tell me, because you're one of our staff singers, and off the top of
Mhm.
my head, I can't remember how many we have. We have six, I think.
I think that's right.
We have
Yes.
six because we want eight.
Yes.
I know we want eight, and we have six. And that is something for me in my time at St. Timothy's that has been an evolution of
Mm.
having the addition of staff singers. We called them choral scholars in the beginning because most of them were students. I mean, moms were having to drive them to work. And but now we've moved away from that model to more sort of older professional singers, and so they're
Mhm.
staff singers. Was sort of the thought behind that name change. But I think an important conversation to have is your role is not to remove or replace the role of the volunteer singer in the choir, and certainly not to outsource the role of music for the person in the pew. It's one, well, I'll give my reflection after yours. What do you think your role in terms of both practically, but also in terms of as a ministry, what is your role as a singer in the context of the Sunday morning experience, the Sunday Mass?
Yeah, it's interesting because I have sung at a church where it was just professional singers in the choir. And I think we did have eight, two people per voice part. And that was in many ways really thrilling because we could do like very complex,
Hmm.
smaller pieces, but you miss that community. And you miss the ability to not just give to the congregation on Sunday morning, but just be present and give love and care and, dare I say, guidance to the people singing with you. Because I very much believe that everyone has a voice and we should use it. And that can be a however degree that you are able. But so I view my role in the choir as just being able to give back really and help support people who, maybe someone can't read music, maybe someone struggles with being in tune. There's so many different things. There are still things I struggle with. And so it's how can we create music together? How can I use the gifts, the education that I've been given and that, the other staff singers have been given as well to help care for others and encourage them. And I think like if you look at the Psalms, like how many times does David or any of the other psalmists say, sing to the Lord a new
Absolutely.
song? Um, and so I think about that. Like my voice was given to me by him. And so it is for him and it is for others. And so how can I use that and my knowledge to help encourage and build the kingdom that way?
Yeah, I have come to sort of see there should not be um sort of a feeling of mutual exclusivity between
Mhm.
professional singers and those of us who just want to sing or enjoy music.
Mhm.
They need not be in competition. It doesn't have to be an either or. And for me
Yes.
personally, having someone who is trained and has that gift, I feel gives me the confidence to sing because I know that they're there to support. There is that you do help us stay on pitch and the difficult parts that are in the hymn, for instance, or what that we're singing, or the mass setting, if it's a congregational one, you're there and you're the spine on which everything else can sort of
Mhm.
hang on. And I think that's a great gift. There are also moments though where it is just the staff singers that are singing, and you have that unique gift and you're able to edify the whole congregation and elevate the atmosphere of prayer in a way that my voice and other voices together simply couldn't do. That's not a judgment. And I think for me, I mean, it's interesting how if you look back at previous generations, and I think you may have to go back maybe three or four or five generations back to find a real singing culture in the United States. And I think other nations still have a more of a singing culture. And I think one of the ways to sort of see that are how many times people are giving away pianos. Like they don't want them
Mm.
in their house. No one's taking, I say no one. Um, I don't know if people are taking piano lessons the way that they used to the same amount, and people would sing as a family. Some families do that, other families not at all. And I think you see that in congregational singing, where there used to be an assumed knowledge of music, how to read music, how to carry a tune, how to do that. That is no longer there. I mean, yes, there are musicians there, but as a sort of a baseline, it doesn't happen. And I think that we have now um, this sort of Simon Cowell approach to judgment on music is that either we lie to people and say you're amazing when maybe that's not your gift, or we say, please don't ever, ever sing again. You are an abomination unto the Lord when you sing his praise. No, I mean, I'm thinking about it in Saint Benedict's rule, for instance, when he's talking
Mm,
about the people who should be reading the lessons in the liturgy. He says not everyone should read, but those who are edifying to the community. That's their gift, and if they have a voice that they can read, do so. And I think there are stages as to our offering of music. You have a unique stage. And that doesn't mean I can't sing or I'm not allowed to sing, but there's an appropriate place where my voice can have that proper spiritual resonance with
hmm.
everyone else. And they need not be in competition. And I'm more confident in
Absolutely.
my voice when I experience your ministry in two
Mm.
ways. One, and you and your colleagues in the choir. One, because you do give feedback when I ask for it. When the clergy of this parish say, what can we do to chant better? And your response is, how much time do you have? And I'll give you the list, right? But also I know that when I'm moved and motivated to elevate that gift of prayer in music and to participate and not simply be a spectator. So I love the hybrid situation that we have now. And I love when people offer their gifts, and I love when we sing as a congregation. And I also love, particularly at evensong after a long Sunday,
Mm.
when you sing the Psalms, I can just relax and pray, and I'm not stressing over the text or whatever else, and it helps me. Um, and at some point, we want to have all the staff singers on a Zoom. I think that'd be a lot of fun
Yeah.
to hear their perspective as well. How has, if it has, I'm
Mhm.
assuming that it has. How has though your role as a church musician enhanced your faith in a way, or challenged your faith in a way that has surprised you, perhaps?
That's such a good question because I think in the past, never really while working at St. Timothy's, but while singing at other churches, I felt that because I was singing, because I was helping lead worship in some way, I couldn't actually participate in worship myself. But I think, and I wonder if it has to do with we pray the chorister's prayer at the end of every rehearsal
Yeah, you
on
do.
Sunday mornings and Wednesday evenings. Um, just, oh, what was it? Oh goodness, something about what we sing with our lips, let us believe in our hearts.
Hmm.
And I've become more and more conscious of that throughout my time. And there are moments when I'm singing a hymn where it just happens, those words. I'm not concentrating on the notes. Hopefully, I know them at that point. But I'm thinking about the words very genuinely. And like that becomes a type of prayer and worship experience for me. So that's been very transformative. And I think, like, particularly in the 11 o'clock, because chant and music is such an influential and integral part of it, that I've been able to sort of reorient my own perspective about it. And it's not just I'm singing these words because some composer 500 years ago wrote them down and set them to music, but it's I'm singing these words because, yes, that, but I am also believing them. And so that's been very subtle. Um, but so much so that like there was just one day where as I was praying, I was like, yeah, like let the words that I say actually be what I believe in my heart. And they are. And so it's interesting seeing like the type of musicality that a Sunday morning church service with more early music, more sacred music, less Wagner, no
Mhm.
Wagner, and less Verdi requires is a different kind of singing. It's much more meditative and thoughtful, and it is not about the individual. Um, and it is about like more of a collective sound without like getting rid of how my voice sounds and all of those things. Like I can't change that. But that sensitivity has impacted the way I make music outside of church too. And so that's been a very interesting little effect that I've noticed recently.
Couple more things.
Hmm.
I've had folks who may have a different approach to music and may not be as favorable to having professional musicians in the choir make the comment that not all musicians have your perspective of faith, and they may not believe what they say. And my response to that is, God spoke through Balaam's ass. And so no, and so God speaks through all kinds of instruments in the Bible
Mm-hmm.
that may have been in various degrees of willingness to participate. And I remember speaking to one professional singer in a choir in a church in Philadelphia who's now ordained, who was not only didn't believe, wasn't baptized in the choir, but being present and singing the words and hearing the message week in and week out and seeing the community of faith move
Hmm.
this person to receive the sacrament of baptism, to live a life of faith, and is now serving the church in a different capacity, this time as an ordained person and not as a staff singer. And I remember having the conversation and sort of expressing my concerns that are we outsourcing the praise of God to a group of people who may not be interested in the praise of God. And the response to me was a challenging one, kind of saying that you don't know what's going on, but give people the opportunity to do that.
Yes.
And also in the congregation, people are singing hymns. We're all in different perspectives of where we are, and
Hmm.
we're unified under this glorious praise. And those words themselves have a way of sanctifying the soul, and
Hmm.
that completely changed my perspective. And I mean, we tease. I've known you for a long time, but I do know that you do you do take this seriously. You do listen to what's going on, and that what was once a job for you is now your faith community,
Hmm.
which is a great example of that.
Hmm.
Is there something that you think that Christians who may or may not, they may go to St. Timothy's, or they may just be listening or watching, that would be important for them to know about their choir members, the gift of music, or something that if you were able to speak to the
Hmm.
congregation, you think would be helpful for them? What would you say?
Well, there are a lot of things, but we professional musicians, amateur musicians, people who just appreciate the radio, as my uncle says, he plays the radio and that's his instrument. Um, Music is a ministry, whether you approach it recognizing that it is in the Christian sense or not. We all turn to music. Well, maybe that's a broad statement, but I do think it's fair. We all have a tendency to turn to music when we are low, when we are excited. Like there is just a natural inclination to sing and make a joyful noise. And I think that the people that are in your choir, if they believe or they don't believe, um, they are still serving. And um, as you were saying, like there is, you can't know where someone's at and let them be there because Jesus did not come to just the people that were like, I'm doing great today. Like he was with the people that didn't believe, the people that were sinners. And we all are. And so I think that to exclude someone from the church, whether it is a job or not, particularly in a choir setting, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think like allow them to be in that space and encourage them to be in that space, whether they ever come to know Jesus or not. You don't know the impact that being present is going to have. And I think that's a beautiful story. And I think, yeah, particularly just like being present in that place, it will have untold and unknown impacts regardless. I don't know. Does that answer your
No,
question?
it's great. What is one piece of music that you sing on Sunday that continues
Mm.
to be an earworm during the week that you're always humming or singing quietly?
It depends. It depends on the Sunday. There are a lot of hymns that I am very partial to. This week it's been Old Hundredth because we did that last
Yep.
week. But I do find a lot of comfort in the psalm chants.
Yep.
And I know at times Robert's like, we need to mix them up and do some new things. And I think that's fair, but there is a lot of beauty in returning to those chants that we know and love so much. So yeah, I mean, it does change each week, but this week's Old Hundredth. But I do like the mass settings too. I just kind of like all of it.
So final thing, we want you to stay here forever, but I just learned yesterday you are going away
Oh,
in the summer,
yes,
right?
I am.
Where are
It's
you?
not forever though.
No.
So I've been offered and I've accepted a contract with Des Moines Metro Opera. They're doing an opera called The Cunning Little Vixen. And as I was saying to Chloe and Father Luke yesterday, I think so many people have serious jobs and like they go to work and they do really impactful things. And I will be going to work and playing a rooster, and I get to boss some chickens around. And this will not be the first opera that I have been an animal. I was a squirrel and I got to chuck some nuts behind me last time.
Okay.
So if you ever think that your opera singers are very fine and stuffy, know that some of us are playing chickens and roosters and dogs on stage. So
Have you ever
yeah.
been able to be Christine Daae?
No,
Okay.
no, I haven't. I want to
Well, we know what to pray for
in my
now.
dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to come to Des Moines this summer to see me cluck on stage, you're definitely welcome.
Well, I'll post that schedule. Maybe never.
Okay.
Um, thank you. Thank you for spending the time. And we do hope to have, I'll say this, we do hope to have all the staff singers on a Zoom. And I hope people will see this and understand why this part of our commitment to the
Mm,
ministry of music is so important by hearing your story and learning
yeah.
more about you. So thank you.
Because it is a gift for us to be, for me at least, to be able to give back and to worship that way. So thank you for having me.